First of all, we're here for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons is you have a fantastic new book that's coming out. And I'll tell you what's amazing about this book.
It doesn't have many words in it. It's all pictures, and it wasn't even possible as a book until one of your own supporters shot in your general direction and clipped some glass on your teleprompter.
To me, as I went through it. And you make your notes, you have comments in your book. The pictures are beautiful. A couple of things.
Beautiful comments. It's the comments, you know? It's like, think of it like the most racist YouTube comment section ever, but bound in fine faux leather in a dust jacket that doesn't even keep the dust off.
Things. Number one, your attachment to working Americans. There's Hollywood, there's the athletes. You saw the Democrat convention. You had one entertainer after another after.
One entertainer. By the way, I got to say, that's clearly a lip flub, but I would like to say that I think that's a great new word to describe the people who show up from Hollywood and Nashville and wherever else, and Detroit, I guess, general area, that support Donald Trump. Entertainers, he'll just take any tainer he can get his hands on. So if it's fucking Kevin Sorbo or Scott Baio or Bob, right? John Voight, entertainers, we're entertainers. We're just, we've got entertainers, they've got entertainers.
Your book is heavy with firefighters, police officers.
Yeah, it's propaganda. It's also not that heavy.
Officers, coal miners, people who drill for oil, truckers, common people. So let me ask you.
I love the common people. I meet them, and as long as there's a picture taken, it's worth it.
This. You spent most of your life around these people.
What? He spent most of his life avoiding these people.
Developer. You were a builder, electricians, plumbers,
No, he didn't meet with the fucking electricians and plumbers. He dealt with the top-end contractors, most of them mobbed up like a motherfucker. But what?
Construction workers of every kind. You created thousands and thousands of middle-class jobs.
No, he didn't. All right. He didn't create those jobs. The contractors that he hired created those jobs. And they go from job to job, keeping those people employees. The contractors do that. He didn't create those jobs. Do you understand? The contractors and the unions and all that, they keep those jobs going before and after any building that happens. Trump didn't just, there wasn't like Trump construction where he fucking moved all of his construction people from New York to build the Chicago Tower, and then he moves them all over the world because these are my guys, right? And they live temporarily while he designs a new golf course or any of that shit. It's not how it works at all. And he stiffed contractors all over the place. He fucked those people out of their jobs, Mark.
With pensions, medical insurance, and so forth and so on.
No! Unions guaranteed their insurance, dummy.
Why do you think your opponents get away with claiming to represent the little guy, the middle class, the blue-collar worker, when they have nothing, absolutely nothing to do with them?
Okay, first of all, just the Made in America rules that were tightened under Biden alone created a scaffolding under the middle class that Trump wouldn't go anywhere near while he was getting his fucking hats made in China and shit like that. So, secondly, piss off. Also, Trump is a scab. He went to a non-union shop during a union fight for a better contract to pretend that the union was on his side. He's undercut these people. He's created more jobs in the mob.
And you've spent your entire life around them.
Well, certainly, I had two opponents. I had Biden, and then he disappeared a couple of weeks ago at their insistence. And
he's still president of the United States. He's running the country. They're actually negotiating the Gaza ceasefire as we speak. That's what he's focusing on. He didn't disappear. He went on vacation because it's August. Trump golfed more than any president in history. Cost us, the taxpayer, 400 years of presidential salary.
And we had a debate, and the debate was a good debate. And he was 18 or 20 points down, and they went to see him, and they said, "We want you out. You're not going to win."
No, he wasn't. He was not 18 to 20 points down. He did. The weird part is he had the worst debate performance of any Democratic presidential candidate in history, and he didn't lose anything.
Win. And you started hearing those rumors, and then all of a sudden he was gone, and they gave me a new one who never got a vote. In all fairness to him, I'm not a fan of his, but
this is a great answer to why do you think the Democrats get credit for being people of the working class when you don't?
he had 14 million votes. He worked for a year to win. She actually started off with him, when you think. But he worked for a year to win. He won. And then they threw him out when they say, this is not a democracy. Okay, when you think about it, what is that all about? She never got a vote.
Okay, if that's the case, she'll lose. She'll lose because Democrats won't vote for her. If we felt like that, lay off the crocodile tears like you give a fuck about Democrats being denied their right to choose somebody. None of us have a problem. Her fundraising's way up. Enthusiasm is way up. People are going to vote for her. It's just stupid. But the idea that and again, I don't know if he's trying to chip away at the enthusiasm because they know it's there. I don't know. This is odd.
But regardless,
he keeps making this case as if it's going to move. Maybe it's I think the only reason I can think of that they use it is to push back on that he is destroying. He's destroying democracy, or he'll destroy democracy. So he's using this as a pushback. Like, they don't care about democracy. Look how they shuffled their own leaders. Well, in the party, it doesn't fucking matter. If they do it and the voters don't like it, they'll lose. That's democracy. So far, that isn't happening.
So then they gave me her, and he's a very angry man, but he's gone. And now,
really? Then what's all the smiling and hugging her about?
Now I have Kamala. I call her Comrade Kamala because she's radical left. She's a radical left.
Radical!
Marxist. And that's what she is. And she'll destroy our country.
Well, that seems pretty simple. I can't imagine anybody would vote for that. That sounds terrible. A radical Marxist that will destroy our country? What's even to like in that situation? I'm sure you've got details that explain why you would use those labels for her that make total sense. Because, it's that serious. You wouldn't just say that off the top of your head. You would clearly, if you're going to make that kind of an accusation, you'd have some strategy to kind of show people what they should be concerned about. And never mind.
There's not going to be any fracking in Pennsylvania. And for her whole life, there was none. She fought people like...
Her whole life? Dude, most of your life, there wasn't fucking fracking.
Like, I've never seen anything like it. Look at the...
Most of her life, there wasn't fracking. Like, I've never seen anything like it.
The way she fought Justice Kavanaugh, the viciousness and the violence.
Oh.
She's a Marxist. She's worse.
Oh, she was vicious and violent towards Kavanaugh. Huh?
Much higher in the scale than Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren. Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are not as left as she is, but she's just really out there. Now she's totally changed her whole policies, everything. She's gone, they call her the greatest flip-flopper because she's gone for I'll never...
Do they? Hey, you know what you should have done? When you have the RNC, you guys should have flip-flops, and you should put Kamala, you should put Harris Waltz on them or whatever, and go flip, flop, and people, you know what I mean? Because that worked. That attack worked before.
Never drill for oil.
Just real quick. She's a radical Marxist who's going to destroy the country and the biggest flip-flopper ever. I don't know, which is worse? A radical Marxist who will destroy the country, which seems bad, or a flip-flopper? I don't know. It sounds kind of innocuous and silly, but it belies a depth of frightening flip-flopper. Because if you think of it like in a horror movie, flip, flop, it's like a monster walking down a hallway. It's
to let's put a well on every street, but she won't do that.
Excuse me.
For I'll never drill for oil to let's put a well on every street, but she won't do that.
She's she went from I'll never drill for oil to let's put a well on every street. But she won't do that because no one would.
She won. She'll never do that. She'll never do that. She'll never do any of the things. I saw today she wants to build walls. She fought me for years on the wall. I built hundreds of miles of wall, but she was one of
No, you built about 30 miles of wall.
the people that fought me. One of the Democrats, but one of the people.
Also, she wants to repair large parts of it that were set to be repaired under the Obama administration, and he took some of those funds and built onto the extension of the wall where he wanted to be able to see it instead of fixing the actual parts that need to be fixed.
And you look at how she's changed, and it's so phony because, and all of this stuff, with politics, it's usually their first thought, that's where they are.
That's right. Yeah. If they start out as a Democrat and are pro-choice and all that kind of stuff, and they suck up to people like Oprah and they hang out with Jeffrey Epstein for 2.5 decades, that's really who they are. They're not going to change. You can't,
And her first thought is Marxism. She's not going to have walls. She's going to have people. We'll have 100 million people in this country within 4 years if she gets elected. 100 million. They've already allowed 20 million in.
No, they haven't. We have about 10 million undocumented immigrants, down from 11.5.
I think it's a lot higher than that.
It's a lot higher than 20 million. You know what? Just say it is.
And Mark, they come from prisons and jails. There's a slight.
Look, I'm not going to feel bad for Mark Levin. Just like Lex Friedman, he sat across from this motherfucker. You can't pretend you didn't know it was coming, Mark. Don't look all worn out and broken down and fucking just like a droopy dick all of a sudden. This is your own fucking fault. Look, oh God, here I am. Mr. Producer, shoot me.
Difference. And they come from mental institutions and insane asylums. And they come also as terrorists at a level that we've never seen before. And they're pouring into the country. We have millions of people coming in, but hundreds of...
Eagle Pass, Texas. By the way, this is from like 2021, 2022, right? The peak of it after COVID, after the vaccines and all that kind of shit. And I gotta say, this is obviously well organized. This is not like a fucking the World War Z shit. These are lines of people applying for asylum, all that kind of stuff. They've got like blankets to keep them warm. They've been categorized into people that will be seen based on either when they showed up or whether or not they've got a claim already filed and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, this is like one of his rallies. There's 1 million people here. And it's like 1,700 people. That's 100 million. This is numbers like we've never seen before, in rows like we've never seen before, with blankets like we've never seen before, largely being turned away like we've never seen before.
Thousands of those people are criminals from Venezuela. They take them off the streets of Caracas and they bring them into our country.
Do I have to look this one up every time? Do we have to do this fucking every time? Trump, Venezuela, last day in office. President Donald Trump on Tuesday announced he will offer Venezuelan exiles protection from deportation, a move he considered for years but refused to do until his last day in office. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump granted Venezuelans 18 months of protection against being removed from the country. His last thing he did, before he went, besides like the I guess filing some pardons, was to allow Venezuelans to have a 18-month delay on their being processed to kick them out of the country. Now, you have to understand, after that delay, they go to the back of the line to be processed even more time down the line from all the other people who can be processed, who are like, I want to say 2.5 years, 3 years behind because of COVID. Yes, and selling some pardons. You're absolutely right. But Trump is using a little-known Deferred Enforcement Departure Program, or DED, to offer temporary legal status to Venezuelans. Now, does anybody know what country the killer who killed Laken Riley came from? Anybody? Does anybody know that there was a moratorium on that person being extradited or kicked out of the country or deported for 18 months? And then, even then, delayed until they finally got around to Venezuelans because they all got pushed to the back of the line amongst all the other countries and people who had come here. Yep, there you go. Just saying. Trump gave all Venezuelans an 18-month reprieve into the first year and a half of the Biden administration before they could even start the process, again, with a lot of other people in that process as well, guaranteeing that they would be here at least 2, 3, maybe 4 years. There you go. Yeah.
And then they announce their crime rate is way down. That's what they've done.
Also, Venezuela locked up a ton of their gang members, like a bunch of South American countries, and their crime rate's down 22% or something like that. A lot of it has to do with they're dead from COVID, too, because they didn't keep numbers.
Their crime rate is way down now, but they come from Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and from South America. And they're destroying our country. And when you watch her, like at the convention, everything's just peachy-dory.
All right, I don't even. That's not a thing. Peachy Dory is not a thing. Hunky Dory is a thing. Peachy Keen is a thing. Yeah. Hunky Keen sounds a little weird, so I guess better to go with Peachy Dory. Peachy Dory, ladies and gentlemen. Sounds like a vaudeville drag performer. Peachy Dory.
And when you watch her, like at the convention, everything's just peachy-dory. But migrant crime is...
Okay, please, why can't they cut to Mark Levin right when he says peachy dory? Why can't I have a shot of his face? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Mark Levin told his producers, whatever you do, don't show me when he says peachy dory, because I almost laugh at his fucking face. Peachy...
turning out to be a disaster. Many, many people are killed and raped and mugged and everything else. These are tough people, but they let them out of jails. You take Venezuela.
Seriously, I have never seen Mark Levin look so dead inside. And it's been the whole interview so far. I think if Peachy Dory is Jimmy Dore's drag name, it might be. I wouldn't buy it. I mean, I think he should go for it. He certainly doesn't have a future in stand-up. But I feel like right before the thing started, Mark's trying to, he's giving it the old, I don't know, middle school try. But this whole time, from the very beginning, he's looked kind of moribund and sad, which means either he can smell Trump and he just can't hide it, or something happened before the interview started where he's like, this is bad. I don't know what the fuck's up with him. This is really, I feel bad for him. Like, this is scaring me.
Their crime rate is down at a number they've never had before. They're taking all of their criminals and busing them into the United States of America and dropping them and saying, if you come back, we will kill you. And then I'm supposed to sit and debate this person, and she'll say, oh, no, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. And now she's going.
Yeah. If it's not wonderful, she'll say, oh, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. And then you'll say, here's 10 reasons why it's not wonderful, wonderful. And all of them are not lies. They check out. In theory.
Going around and said, we had the weakest border in history. She was the border czar. She was put in charge of the border. We had the weakest border.
Also, by the way, does it matter who's sitting across? Is he just using footage from the Lex Friedman interview?
In the history of the world, I think. I believe it's not just here, the world.
Yeah, but that's silly. Just kind of is. Yeah.
And now she's going around saying, oh, I think I'm going to build a wall. I'm going to build a wall. She fought me for years on the wall. She was on every lawsuit. I had 11 lawsuits.
No, she wasn't.
And she was on every one of them. One of the leaders.
Well, part of it was because of where you wanted to get the money from. You told everybody that Mexico was going to pay for it, and then you wanted to take it from military families.
She's not that much of a leader. But the one thing she is radical left, and she's rated much further left than Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was unelectable, and she's much worse than him. And Biden was just a fake. He wasn't really left. I don't think he really knew what he was, if you want to know the truth, actually, for a long time. But Biden...
But he kicked your ass. So, again, go for it, dude. You lost. He beat you. So the dumber he is, the dumber you are exponentially.
Was not real. She's real. She really believes in all this stuff. Defund the police. She wants to defund the police.
No, she doesn't. She's a former prosecutor. You tried to run to the left of her and Biden.
For years. She's
on crime. He did. He was like, it'll be great with her on because we'll paint them as bad on crime and locking up black men and all that kind of stuff. That was part of the pitch in 2020. It was shit, but it was part of the pitch.
Said defund the police. Now all of a sudden, a little while ago, she goes, no, I don't want to defund the police. She's flip-flopped on every single thing that you could flip-flop, from border strength to defunding and defunding the police.
Defunding and defunding the police?
Things that you wouldn't believe.
You're right. I don't believe you. What other things besides the two things you just mentioned?
She doesn't want to have any fracking. She doesn't want to have oil. She doesn't know how you're going to fire up our plants. How do you fire them up? You don't fire them up with wind, I can tell you that. The wind, let the wind blow.
Let the wind blow. Is that, that's the second verse of Let the Eagle Soar, right? The John Ashcroft song?
So I think our
Let the wind blow.
Country's in serious trouble. The good news is I'm leading. I think I'm leading maybe by a lot. Could be a lot more than people think.
Or a lot less than you think, which it is. Because you're not.
And historically, I was losing to Hillary, and I ended up winning quite easily.
No, you didn't win quite easily. You lost by 3 million votes in the popular vote. It was because of faux-gressives that you got 3 states. That's not happening again.
Once people hear, and also they have to look at what we did. We had a great economy. We had no.
It was so great. It was so great. That's why we had a recession before COVID even started, and that's why you added a third of our national debt is yours.
Inflation. We rebuilt the mill.
You had no inflation. First of all, you want 2% inflation, I guess, standard. That's what you shoot for, or whatever. We had deflation because our economy collapsed because of COVID, because you screwed the pooch.
Military. We defeated ISIS.
No, you didn't. It was an ISIS bomber that killed our troops in Afghanistan. If you had defeated them, then they wouldn't have been able to do that.
But I had no new wars. Our country.
Biden hasn't had a new war. He hasn't. What new war has Biden started? Where does America have new boots on the ground?
Is going to be in World War III. Right now, we don't have a president. We have Biden that just took a vacation in California, came home, was going to go to the office. He decided to go back to Delaware, where he's going to take another vacation. And
they split the 2-week vacation, the one in California and one in Delaware. That was planned.
We have people talking about World War III.
Right. And we didn't have one the entire. So let me get this straight. It's real clear. Just to clarify, we're both on the same page. So Biden stopped World War III from the beach. We're not in World War III, so clearly he's doing something right.
And a war like no other, by the way. This would be a war like no other because of the weaponry. So we just have a country that's in such trouble. I know it's close to your heart, but the October 7th attack of Israel would have never happened if I was there. As you know, Iran had no money.
Also, this is close to your heart because you're Jewish, because Mark Levin is Jewish. That's why he couldn't be close to your heart what happened to the people in Israel on October 7th. If you're not Jewish, I'm not Jewish. I would consider it close to my heart. That's pretty terrible, right? You could feel it, I guess. But, he gets it. It's basically everything is derived self-interest.
Money to give to Hamas and to Hezbollah and all of the other elements of terror, lots of different terms, but they call them elements of terror.
No, they don't.
The new term.
No, it isn't. You just made it up. There's not elements of terror. That's not the new term. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Listen to this again.
To give to Hamas and to Hezbollah and all of the other elements of terror, lots of different terms, but they call them elements of terror. That's the new term.
No, they don't. Hamas and Hezbollah and ISIS aren't elements of terror.
But they had no money to do that.
Also, why can't they put a camera on Mark Levin when he says that shit so that I can see Mark Levin's sorrow? I just want to see Mark Levin go. I want to see his face drop like Keanu Reeves' partner in Speed when the bomb goes off.
During my term, we had no terrorist attacks. Think of it. You didn't have Iran saying they're going to blow up Israel, and you didn't have Putin saying he's going into Ukraine. That would have never.
He was already in Ukraine. He was in Ukraine the entire time you were there. And Hamas and Islamic State in Gaza fired rockets into Israel every week he was president. Every single week. The only reason it didn't kill more people is because of the Iron Dome. It wasn't for a lack of fucking trying.
Never happened. Putin going.
Hamas didn't care where those things landed. They just hoped one of them would get through. And they're talk about dumb bombs. That's all they are. Just fire rockets in the general direction. Maybe one will get past the dome and kill some people. Like the entire time he was president.
Going into Ukraine would have never happened.
He was already in Ukraine. Just saying. They were reinforcing the entire time.
And inflation would have never happened. And Afghanistan.
By the way, if inflation never happened after COVID, that would only be because our economy had totally collapsed. Like where money meant nothing at all. It would have been so bad that we didn't actually have a chance to get out of it. There would be no desire for U.S. funds at all.
And would have never happened. I was just with the parents of some of the great heroes from the Afghanistan slaughter. 13 died, many, many horrifically injured. And overall, 400 or 500 people were killed, including both sides, right? Because I like to include both sides.
What? First of all, what do you mean both sides? 400 or 500 people killed, like, all right. I think he means Afghans, like civilians and Taliban people, but I don't know. I think there was like somewhere in like order of like 120 people that day that were killed or injured, and they were largely civilians because it was on the civilian side of the airport.
And we lost hundreds of people. There are hundreds of people dead. We left $85 billion worth of military.
No, we didn't.
Equipment behind. You know, Afghanistan now is one of the largest sellers of military equipment in the world. They're selling.
No, they are not. Not even close. They don't even chart.
Our equipment, brand new, beautiful stuff. How they put in so much, who would believe it? But we left America.
I don't believe it. I don't know who would believe it, but I don't. Fuck you. Citation needed. It's just gibberish. 85 billion is the number of the entirety of training and gear and like logistical equipment that we left for the Afghans or taught them to use or trained them on or had for them the entire time we were in there over the course of these, of the 20 years.
Americans behind, as you know, and you cover it really well, better than anybody. You get it.
Jesus Christ. I got to say, Levin looks fucking miserable.
But that would have never happened. All of these things would have never happened. And now
What's he going to do, though? Interrupt Trump while he's saying this shit that he's heard before in every other interview, in the exact same order, in the exact same, like, with every fact being wrong again?
We have a world that it's just blowing up. They asked the prime minister of Hungary.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, Orban, let's get Trump back in.
Trump was president. We had no problem. I would stop wars with a telephone.
Okay, oh yeah.
With a telephone call. I would stop wars with a telephone. And it's very sad. The world is exploding right now. That's what the question to him was. The world is exploding. What's happening? What's the difference? He said, you have to bring Trump back. So we'll see what happens, but we're doing well in the election.
Let me follow up with you. In the book,
Please. It's just, dude, this is that whole chunk, he just rambled for 12 fucking minutes. And Levin finally comes in, and it was like, I think the question was, how you doing?
Look, you have some very compelling photos of the border. You spent a lot of time on the border.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of time working on the border.
No, he didn't. He didn't spend a lot of time on the border. He visited it a couple times, specific places, for photo ops. Again, if they hadn't built this wall, there wouldn't be an access road on the Mexican side of the border, of the wall, and people wouldn't be able to go to the end of it and walk around it because it's been completely flattened out.
Thinking about the border, litigating to get the money to build the wall on the border, opposition from people like Kamala Harris. She says if this so-called bipartisan bill hits her desk, she will sign it.
This is the border bill.
Not a single Republican in the House supported it. 3 Republicans in the Senate. It was negotiated in secret. She never...
Yeah, who cares if it was negotiated in secret? You know what's in it, you dumb motherfucker. Who cares how it was negotiated if you can read the final bill? They didn't... And by the way, it wasn't in secret. They worked together. They set up a bipartisan committee to do it. To work on it in the same way that, like, that's like saying any bill you write yourself was written in secret because you typed it up yourself.
It tells us what's in the bill. Catch and release. You put an end to that. That's
right.
in the bill. It would be a statute. Work permits for illegal aliens.
Right.
You said, no way.
Yep.
Taxpayer-funded lawyers for illegal aliens. In the bill.
Right. But if you don't process them, they can keep coming back. By international law, unless you adjudicate their case, if they claim asylum, you have to have a lawyer process them. If the lawyer processes them and they have representation under our laws as a country, they don't have any claim on sneaking or coming back into the country. But if you don't provide them with that, if you don't hear their case on some level, even if it's perfunctory, they can claim I was never given a full trial, and the international court could grant them another one and another one and another one. You stack that on thousands of people trying that, it costs the country so much more money.
5,000 illegal aliens a day, 1.8 million a year in 4 years' time.
Yeah, they don't get to stay. They don't. Those people, by the way, we're not allowing in 1.8 million. That's the cap. To where you shut it down entirely because of the 5,000 a day. If it reaches that point, you can do it. Now, the bill actually allows for it to be lower than that, but it's mandatory at 5. It gives the president discretion at 3,000 or 2,800, I think. And then at 5,000, it's capped. No matter what the president wants to do, no matter who it is, it automatically shuts down until we have caught up with the backlog, which, by the way, if that passed, you'd hit the 5,000, because it's the entire southern border. You'd hit the 5,000 number tomorrow, and it wouldn't reopen until you had processed everybody in the backlog, which is like a fucking 2.5 years worth of cases. Doesn't that sound preferable to just not doing fucking anything?
A lot of illegal aliens.
And it would be much higher than that.
And it would be higher because of all the gotaways. Right. Billions to sanctuary cities. Billions to...
Also, billions to cover their costs in processing people. To kind of play against the, the grand sweeps into sanctuary cities where they just round people up. So they can be more specific about it, so the cities themselves can differentiate between violent criminals and people who aren't violent, who have either got family or are seeking asylum or both.
Pro-illegal alien NGOs. And Senator Chris Murphy and others said, don't worry, the border's not going to be closed. So she runs around. This is a bigger issue. You say flip-flop. If you're a flip-flopper, you're a liar. You either lied before or you're lying now.
Okay, so when Trump used to be pro-choice and now he isn't, which one is he now?
She's hiding out from the press. Is she a...
Yeah, that's a talking point. Hold on one second. Let's see. Text of the bipartisan border bill. Okay. This is, let me make sure this is the same one. Yeah, this is the one from February. Senate has released, here we go. Senate has released a $118 billion bipartisan border security bill after months of negotiation. Congress has grappled with security, blah, blah, blah. There we go, go away. This is the... They've compiled 5 key takeaways from the bill. Tougher migration rules. The bill would fund an increase in ICE detention capacity from 34,000 to 50,000. It would mean that people who arrive in the U.S. illegally would not be able to claim amnesty, and it would force the government to shut down the border at times where there is a 7-day rolling average of 5,000 encounters per day or 8,500 encounters in a single day. When encounters approach 4,000 people a day, the U.S. government would be granted the power to voluntarily turn away people at border stations. So even if the president was for it, the Texas and these other states would have the right to do it at 4,000. Just for the record. Asylum cases would also be fast-tracked from years to months, and there would be tougher asylum requirements with claimants' criminal history examined, so nobody would get in without looking at their criminal history. Everybody gets fingerprinted, everybody gets iris scans, and that's how you identify people. It would create a new expedited removal authority to remove migrants who don't qualify for asylum. Boost to Border Patrol. The bill would also allocate $20 billion in immigration enforcement, which included hiring of hundreds of Border Patrol agents and new officers to evaluate claims. Aid for Ukraine and Israel. This ended up being stripped out. Yeah, that one didn't end up being in there. They literally took this out and it passed on its own. The irony that was one of the excuses that people were using. The bill's been seen by going to call it dead on arrival. Johnson, I've seen enough. This bill is worse than we expected. Blah, blah, blah. Trump, okay, and support. Bill has attracted bipartisan support. Biden said in a statement that the Senate proposal allows the United States to continue our vital work together with partners around the world to stand up for Ukraine's freedom and support the ability. Okay, they dealt with that. He added the immigration system had been broken for too long. Bill would fix it. It will make our country safer, make our border more secure, treat people more fairly and humanely while preserving legal immigration consistent with our values as a nation. Mitch McConnell said in a statement that the Senate must be prepared to act. American sovereignty is being tested here at home, and our credibility is being tested by emboldened adversaries around the world. That was it. Commitment to the fairness of it. I'm going to try and look at another long form. This is the Secure the Border Bill. Actions 2. This is the text. Whoops, 1 second. Back up. This is the a bill. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm up your ass on Capitol Hill. This is Secure Border Act of 2023. Definition, border wall construction's in here. So this is section 102. Immediate resumption of border wall construction no later than 7 days after the date of enactment of the act. Use of funds. To carry out the section, the Secretary shall expend all unexpired funds appropriated for explicitly obligated for construction of the border wall that were appropriated or obligated in the case may be for use beginning on October 1st, 2019. So anything that stopped after that was already allocated for, it's been sitting there. Any unused materials purchased before the date of this enactment for construction may be used for activities related to the construction of the border wall in accordance with the paragraph. Plan to complete tactical infrastructure and technology that no later than 90 days after the date. That's where they're going to put in drone systems and sensors and all that kind of stuff that actually makes it worthwhile. Yeah. Appropriate committees, tactical infrastructure. They define all these things. Strengthening requirements for barriers along the southern border. Agent safety, in carrying out the section, Secretary of Homeland Security, when designing, testing, constructing, installing, deploying, integrating, and operating physical barriers, tactical infrastructure, technology, shall incorporate such safety features into such design, test, construction, installation, deployment, integration, or operation of such physical barriers, tactical infrastructure, or technology, as the case may be, that the Secretary determines are necessary to maximize the safety and effectiveness of officers and agents of the Department of Homeland Security or of any other federal agency deployed in the vicinity of such physical barriers, tactical infrastructure, and technology. That's wonderful. Okay. And then border and port security technology investment plan, which is a bigger part of that because that's where most of the fentanyl comes in. Border security technology program management, all the actual work of it. U.S. Customs and Border Protection technology upgrades. The Commission will ensure that each CBP officer or agent, as appropriate, is equipped with a secure radio or other two-way communication device that allows each officer to get each agent to communicate between ports of entry and inspection stations with other federal, state, tribal, and local law enforcement entities. no later than September 30th, 2025. They'll have a full implementation of the Border Security Deployment Program. They will expand the integrated surveillance and intrusion detection system of land ports of entry along the northern and southern borders of the United States. Like, again, I don't know why they voted this down. He's talking out of his ass. There's certain like processes that they have to go to: Anti-Border Corruption Act reauthorization, supplemental commissioner authority, as the definitions of it, establishment of workload staffing models for U.S. Border Patrol and Marine operations of CBP, which they're going to give more staff to. Operation Stone Garden, which was, let's see if they have the, yeah, here it is. There's established by the department a program known as Operation Stone Garden, under which the secretary, acting through the administrator, shall make grants eligible to eligible law enforcement agencies through the state administrative agencies to enhance border security in accordance with this section. So all the border states get more money for law enforcement in the areas close by. And then, of course, I don't have to tell you guys that there's a whole section on the kidney.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
Well, sure. Also, there was let's go down here. Border Patrol strategic plan. More money for them. More money for that. U.S. Customs and Border Protection spiritual readiness. No later than 1 year after the enactment of the act, annual thereafter 5 years, the commissioner shall submit to the Committee on Homeland Security, House of Representatives Committee on Homeland Security, a report on the availability and usage of the assistance of chaplains, prayer groups, houses of worship, and other spiritual resources for members of CBP who identify as religiously affiliated and have attempted suicide, have suicidal ideation, or at the risk of suicide, and metrics on the impact of such resources having assisting religiously affiliated members who have access to and utilize such resources compared to religiously affiliated members who do not. So check that out. Mark Levin, I think this is probably the biggest one. Mark Levin and Donald Trump both oppose the creation of churches. That's right. Churches and places of worship and the hiring of pastors to help suicidal members of CBP deal with the stress. And Mark Levin is against it. Right.
Liar? Is that why she's hiding out from the press? She doesn't want to tell the American people just how radical she actually is?
Radical!
Well, if you look at her campaign, because she campaigned for this office, that she seems to be getting now with no votes, and
okay,
she's getting the nomination with no votes. Think of that.
Okay. Okay.
And it'll
done.
be between two people to who wins, and I think we're going to win.
I guess you and her, you mean?
Because I think when people find out about, they know what I did and they loved it. They had no.
If they know what you did and they loved it, you would have been reelected the first time.
Inflation, we did Space Force, we rebuilt our military, all these things. We got
Yeah, that's what everybody's looking at right now. Yeah, Space Force.
the biggest tax cuts.
Yeah, like women are like, fuck it that I'm a second-class citizen now because of the Supreme Court you put together. Space. Tell me more about this Space Force thing.
Ever in our history. Got the biggest regulation cuts in our history.
Biggest rights cuts. I don't know if you should. I honestly, you're the first president to get rid of human rights in post-slavery.
They know all this stuff. That's good. But they don't know her. Most people don't know her. And she's a Marxist. She's a radical left Marxist. And this country's not ready for that. This country's not. You know, I used to say this country will never be a socialist country. And I was right. They skipped socialism. They went from here down to here.
Again, he doesn't even know what socialism means, not that a lot of people do, but he certainly doesn't know what the fuck communism is at this point. We have not jumped straight to communism under this. Dude, the stock market's like at an all-time high. What are you talking about?
We skipped it very quickly. And
we skipped it. We're communist now very quickly. We have the biggest communist stock market you've ever seen. We have the biggest communist wage increases, because commies are big on wage increases.
And we just can't let it happen. It would be
No, you can't let that.
it would be the end of our country.
All right, we've seen this before. All right. Next phase in this. Oh, hey, it's him with that lady he doesn't hang out with anymore. I don't remember her name.
Engaged about it.
Well, I love doing
Yeah.
a great job for the country. I loved being president. But
Hold on,
I loved
wait.
it because we.
Hold on. I don't even know what the fucking
It's a
question was.
fantastic book.
Oh, it's a fabulous book. And if I don't sell the book every fucking segment, you're going to get up and leave.
45books.com. You can order it directly. I'm going to tell you, there's so many, I can't possibly
There's so many pages. It's just,
cover it all.
No, I know.
But you loved being president. You could see. You were excited.
what? You loved being president? First of all, you pick a picture where he looks worried. Like, he looks like he's like, do they know my diaper is full? She looks happy. She looks happy you're president because you're distracted. You got a bunch of shit to do, and you finally got work you can't pass up on and just blow off to go knock up a fucking porn star or something. So she's really happy. Like how she knows when you get back to the house, you're going to have to be dragged away to go fucking do something else, and she won't have to hear from you for weeks. That's why she's happy.